Hi viewers, welcome back to Let's Share It from a career podcast powered by Micro Factory, where we don't just talk about jobs, we talk about the people who decide how jobs are created, shaped, and sustained. Today's guest has spent over 25 years in the HR, which means he has seen trends come, go, and come back again with a new name. He has worked across GE, Deloitte, Idea Cellular, UltraTech Cement, and Maruti Ispat, and today he leads the HR department as a CHRO at Endress+Hauser Flowtec India, partnering with India and global leadership to drive transformation, culture, and performance. In simple terms, he knows what companies really look for beyond resumes, buzzwords, and LinkedIn headlines. So, without wasting a single second, let's hear it from the horse's mouth. Let's hear it from Anil Srivastava sir, the CHRO at Endress+Hauser Flowtec India. Anil ji, we are thrilled to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ajay. My pleasure.
I quickly come to the first question. We want to know about your journey, your philosophy. You have led HR teams across industries like manufacturing, telecom, consulting, even technical. Looking back, what core experiences shaped you the most as an HR leader? What are the personal principles and beliefs that have guided you consistently throughout your 20 plus 25 plus years of journey?
Okay. So, once again, Ajay, thanks for inviting me for this podcast. And I'm sure this is going to be both enriching
Right.
discussions for both of us, and also will give me a chance to really reflect on a lot of things
Okay.
which normally are really passed over a period of time, but we don't really have those kind of a reflections. So to your point of what really had been my personal kind of a reflections basis the 25 years of a professional career which I have seen, I think the first and the primemost principle which I really would give a lot of emphasis is on the continuous learning curve. That's
Wow.
something to me is the most important thing for me, because the industries are changing, the outside environment as such is changing. So for any individual, including me, the learning agility and that mindset really is very important. Second important thing for me, if I really look back, is the integrity part of it. Now, there will be a lot of scenarios which really come in any professional career, but sticking to what we believe in and doing exactly what we believe in is a very important ethos and the value which I
Correct.
really carry while really working both in the professional space and I would say even at the personal space. A third important part, which is now considered to be more like a norm, and that is really more about the hard work and the commitment.
Yes.
But I would say, and I have seen, and I'm sure you also would have really seen from a lot of people, experienced professionals from different walks of life. I also personally feel there's no substitute to commitment and the hard work which
Wow.
really goes in our sphere of life. So
Absolutely.
to sum it up, these three things are something which have really shaped my overall professional as well as I would say the personal life. And
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
and yeah, that's what Anil is all about.
Wow, such an insightful answer. Job seekers, if you are listening, continuous learning is one key thing which is my favorite and which is going to keep you, sustainable for coming years in your career. I quickly move on to the next question, and which is on talent and hiring, which is my favorite question. Sir, please tell us something. What are the top qualities you look for in job seekers, especially beyond skills, beyond educational qualifications, especially in early career talent?
Okay. Now, see, we all have really gone through that stage.
Yes.
I have gone through that stage. You would have gone through the stage, and I
Yes, sir.
would say every single professional would have really passed through that stage. Now, there are a couple of things which are very important being seen from both the sides of the coin, being on the receiving end And now, when I'm really sitting on the other side of the coin, there are two, three aspects which are very crucial, and especially from the people who are either just starting the careers or further really building the careers from the long run perspective. So again, here also one of the important thing is to really look for the diverse kind of an experiences, and whether if the time which I have really spent in, it can be just maybe early stages of 1 to 2 years. What are really the diverse kind of learnings which I really had? What is the diverse kind of an exposures which I really got? The time which I have really spending at the workplace. Second important thing is how curious I am in terms of observing the things and really connecting the dots. That again to me is a very important thing, because when we are starting our career, the learnings come from different stages and different areas. It may not necessarily be from my core area
Yes.
of specialization, but since we are really working in the workplace, those learnings will come from the different areas, different spaces. So how a professional really connects all the dots and really makes sense for him or her in their respective area is again a very, very important aspect which I have really seen and should be very important for the people who are just starting their careers. Last but not the least is also the way the individual shows up for different, I would say, the mini kind of assignments or some projects which are really happening in the organization. So the people who initially really show up for these different kind of assignments, or really the kind of a projects, or even I would say when somebody is just
Right.
passing out from a college or the institute, during that time also, what are the different kind of projects which the individual has done? There are a
Correct.
lot of winter projects, the summer projects which really
Yes.
happen when somebody is in a college. So how well the individual is really leveraging that space to really get connected with the industry, getting some practical exposure on those projects, and making a sense and connecting also with the theoretical concepts which have really been studying during the college time. So all those really are going to be very important and really helps in building a foundation from a long-term career perspective.
Great, great. Such a minute thing, but such a long-term impact it's going to have in your career. Anilji, just stretching this question a bit ahead, can you share a moment, during your, work experience, a moment where a candidate truly stood out to you in his interviews or in his performances if you have hired him? What made them different? What makes these candidates stand out and as they become top performers in the organizations?
Okay, a great question. And I would say a lot of those candidates had been there, which
Okay.
I have really seen in my own professional career. One specific case which I really remember, where the candidate profile didn't seem to be really impressive on the paper.
Oh, I
And
see.
the average qualifications, the average marks, but there was something due to which we had thought about having a discussions even with that individual having average kind of a profile with things on the qualification part being on the average quotient. But when we really had the discussions, we realized that individual really had a spark
Okay.
as compared to the people who looked pretty good on the paper in terms of the impressive credentials, good colleges, good marks, distinction marks, and all seemed perfect on the profile. Whereas when I was talking about this particular individual, on the paper, very average, but when the discussions and the flow of discussions really happened, it really brought a lot of, I would say, even interest in us as a panel members to have more
Okay.
kind of a connect with him and more understanding of what this individual is all about, because that individual really showed the curiosity, in terms of his own work area. Even the kind of questions which he was really asking was beyond the role for which we were having the
Oh, I
discussions.
see.
And
Okay.
the individual was trying to really get an idea overall about the company, about the business, and how
Mhm.
these XYZ things really will probably impact his particular work area and the role. In a net sense, we realize this individual really shows a lot of promise. And I would say a lot of times in the recruitment and even in the early stages of career, from a recruitment standpoint, a lot of companies uh, really take a bet on the promise which the individual shows rather than what exactly is being shown on the paper or
People.
being shown on the profile.
Right.
So so to cut the story short, we ultimately recruited that person, and
Great.
after 2 to 3 years, that individual had really been one of our high performer in the early career
Wow.
talent program which we really had. And the person even moved into a different kind of a role as part of our talent assessment. So all these are really the kind of cases where those people really show promise, and as part of our hiring, it's really very important not to really miss out on these kind of unpolished diamonds which are really sitting somewhat out there.
Wow. Yeah, and it was your skill and experience also to find out those diamonds and skilled people. So, sir, I quickly move on to the next question. Currently, capabilities are evolving, rapidly changing due to AI and automation. How can candidates truly show readiness for for future roles which are upcoming in the industry?
Okay, now I would say this is something which is relevant for all professionals.
Right.
It's even relevant for me at this stage of
Okay.
career and the life, because we always say learning is a never ending process. So in the same way, for somebody who is starting the career or in the early stages of career, it's altogether more important, because in the last, I would say, 5 years to 7 years, the way the overall economic environment is really changing, the business environment is changing,
Right.
and that's really impacting across all the business domains, functional
Right.
areas. So for the budding professionals, it's very important to really spot the kind of things which are going to emerge or unfold in their respective area, and what is the impact it's going to really have across the entire business ecosystem. That is something which is very, very important thing. Second thing is, how do we really prepare ourselves for this changing environment? So first is to have, even within the organization, a kind of a entrepreneurs, or
Oh, I
the
see.
people who really show their entrepreneurial kind of a mindset, and also the kind of a mentors who probably can guide these people about how their respective roles and their careers are really going to unfold. Second thing is, even at an individual level, it's extremely crucial to see what are the kind of learning curves which are going to really happen for them in the next couple of years. So every individual should really have a learning plan, especially at this early stage of a career. What are the things which an individual really wants to learn in next 6 months? What will be figuring in my learning plan in the next 1 to 2 years? And how those learnings are going to be converted into my respective area in which I'm really working. So these are some of the things which can prepare practically an individual for the future roles and the way the career are going to shape up.
Right. I quickly move on to the next question, and the next question is on basically company cultures, organization designs, and leadership. Sir, please tell us something. You have worked deeply across, culture alignment and organization transformation. So, what does a strong, healthy company culture look like to you?
Okay, now this culture is a very interesting
Right. Right.
word. And in different discussions,
Right.
either during interviews or even within the existing employees in any organization, this is the culture is something which everybody talks about. But at the same time, we always say it is something which is difficult to measure, but can be felt in the air. So, if any individual who wants to sense how the career, how the culture of a particular organization is there, there's a formal way and there is a informal way by which culture can be gauged. So we all knows about the formal ways. So
Mhm.
anybody can go to ambition box, everybody can really go to
Okay.
these all
Career
formal
pages.
feedback systems
Yes.
and can get the idea about the organization. But this may not complete the story. The real story gets completed when the individual is about to sense the kind of feeling in the air in the organization for which the individual is participating for the discussions. So and the starting point is the interviews. So when the candidate is having the interviews of a particular organization, how even the panel members are showing up. So interviews are not only for the person who's giving the
Correct.
interview. It's a mutual conversation, free flowing conversation discussions which are happening in. So the individual also gets a sense of uh, of a culture of the organization by the way the
Right.
panel members are showing up, whether they are quite receptive to what the candidate is really showing, how well the listening curve is there from the members who are there, whether there is a in a sense of respect for the interviewee who is maybe at any stage of the career having any number of years of experience. So this becomes a starting point to gauge some sense uh, of a culture of that organization. Second part is when the individual physically goes to an organization for the discussions, it gives much more, uh, I would say, the points which can't be measured, but gives any individual a sense of how this organization works. So, for example, how the individuals are uh, having the discussions, interactions, whether there is a kind of a self respect uh, which is there amongst the people, how the decisions are really made
Right.
in those organizations. And last but not the least is how the overall people show up with the time which I'm really able to spend in the organization, maybe half an hour or 1 hour during the discussions time. So, for example, I can tell you a practice, I would say a good practice which we follow in Endress+Hauser. Whenever any candidate comes to the discussion, we specifically focus on face-to-face discussions despite the level at which the individual is being interviewed for. And secondly, we purposely also ensure that the candidates are going to the manufacturing site, production center, meeting the people with whom he's going to work with. He's also going to really see how the process really happens there, and also gets an idea
Okay.
about
Right.
how the organization really works. So we always say physically seeing something is closer to the reality. So in this way, the candidate gets a good view about how the organization is there and how practically the things work in the organization by spending 1 hour or 1.5 years. And
Right.
it gives a good sense, a very high level sense of how the organization culture operates in terms of
Right.
how the people really have a sense of respect there, how the decisions really work there, and how there is a receptiveness. So we get some sense of it. So these are, I would say, in a very layman terms, somebody gets a sense of a culture of the organization.
Right. And sir, you have actually, shelled out the right and the realistic way of how job seekers can actually evaluate a company's culture before even joining that, before even taking that over. So he gets a clear cut, idea of very well and a very insightful answer. Sir, I quickly move on to the next question, and the next question is basically on employee engagement and development. Sir, in your experience across multi-plant and global environments, what are the strongest drivers of employee engagement?
Now, Ajay, this employee engagement is another very interesting
Right.
area, and every organization conducts the employee engagement surveys to find out how the employees are engaged within the organization. But again, there are few things by which uh, we can check how is the engagement within
Right.
the organization. So, two, three very simple barometer, if I have to use the word, by which it can be checked. One is the sense of self-respect
Oh, I
of an
see.
individual in that organization. Second is the how the decisions are really made in the organization and how the individuals uh, are involved in those decisions and whether they also even have a really say in those kind of decisions.
Okay.
Third is how much is actually the transparency of a communication and whether the individual, irrespective of the level, is comfortable to speak up if they have any issue or if they have a point of view. So, very three simple ways by which anybody can get a sense of the engagement of employees within the organization. There are a lot
Okay.
many
Right.
structures, there is a frameworks which are there, but I have given a very practical
Practical.
ways by which the
Right.
engagement of the organization can be gauged.
Right. Right. It's a very practical and a very insightful answer, sir. I quickly move on to another interesting set of questions, and that is on candidate personas and workplace readiness. Sir, hiring today is more about candidate personas than just resumes, So, what candidate personas do you commonly come across, and which ones actually thrive in the organizations?
Okay. Now that's an interesting question because every candidate whom we meet brings a different set of a personality on the table.
Right. Yes.
So there will be individuals who will be quick movers and they may be looking for a short term gain but missing out on the long term
Long term.
quotient. Then there'll be another set of people who value curiosity more than anything else, and it gets reflected in the way uh, they have done the work in their previous organizations or the way even they ask the questions during the discussions. Third will be a set of people whom I will call it as silent workers. They may be very good but are not seen anywhere. So they are the ones who are building a very solid foundation, good work they're doing, but not being noticed.
Right.
But overall, very important seem to be the asset to the organization. So these are the different personalities which I've
Okay.
observed during the interviews. And to your part two, how these set of people prepare themselves for for the challenges, or I would say the kind of a careers which they want to build in the organization.
Okay.
So as I mentioned previously, again, curiosity is a very simple
Right.
but a very powerful
Or
trait which has to be there in the individual because it's going to bring an individual up on the learning curve
yes.
and also help in connecting the dots of their respective areas in which they're working. So these two to me are very, very important
Great.
areas to get prepared. Third is to show up for a lot of difficult yet enriching experiences which may happen within the organization. So putting our hands up for those assignments, the project cross-functional assignments, showing up when there is a need, but nobody is willing uh, to come forward for those areas. And if the individual comes up and shows up and takes a value out of these difficult projects, assignments, this is something which is going to help the individual for future careers,
Growth.
basis these different experiences which individual is going to have.
And career growth also. Sir, moving on to the next question, sir, I want to know something, some very particular question. What's one misconception, job seekers often have about hiring or the HR department that you wish to clarify?
Okay. Well, yes. One important thing which uh, always comes in front is that HR has rejected the candidate or HR has
Okay.
selected the candidate.
Hmm.
So, first of all, either one of us, whether it's a candidate or HR, are not in a position to select or reject.
Oh,
We're having a kind of a mutual conversations, and the intent of both of us is to do a right assessment from their lens. That is the number one thing. Second thing, from the HR side, the overall intent, or I would say even from the organization side, the intent of these conversations is to reduce the risk. And the obvious point is, what is the risk which we are talking about? Now, bringing the right talent is a very, very important
right. Absolutely.
uh, job, I would say, for the organization. And we overall as an organization playing different kind of roles, the intent is to take a bet on the right individual who will be asset to the organization. And these conversations help in clarifying both for the individual level as well as for the HR or the organization to see whether this is the individual for whom we can take a bet and can move forward. So I think it's not about
Right.
selecting or rejecting and giving a mandate
Right.
about the individual. It's about taking the right calls mutually, which will serve the mutual interest and even at the individual level.
What message would you like to give to job seekers who are currently feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or uncertain about their career direction?
Okay. Now, we need to understand that
Okay.
uh, time just passes by, and how do we leverage the time which is there at our hand is important. So, even if it's a tough time, the tough time is not going to be there forever. So, first is the patience and perseverance, which is important. Second is, how do we leverage the time which seems to be a tough time for us, and how do we make the most of that time is another important area. So during that time, either an individual who is going to focus on upskilling themselves, learning about new areas, applying those
Correct.
learnings, are going to see the fruits of their time and also the patience in a much more effective manner in the coming
Absolutely.
years to come.
Absolutely.
So it's not uh, important to just lie and keep ourselves down. It's important to believe in ourselves and believe that good things are going to come for the individual. So
Absolutely.
that's what I'm going to mention
Absolutely.
to all those people.
Absolutely, such an important piece of advice. Okay, Anil sir, no, we have come to the end of this particular episode of Let's Share It From. Last but not the least, one of the most surprising round is the rapid fire round, which which I had just mentioned to you. I'll be asking you short questions, and I expect you to answer it in as instinctively and whatever first that comes in your mind. So my first question goes to you right now. One skill every job seeker must build in the next 5 years.
One skill which every job seeker should build is the analytical skills
Cool.
and their computer related AI skills, which are going to
Correct.
change the landscape of every respective specialization in the functions.
Attitude or aptitude, which one wins in the long run?
Without any doubt, it has to be attitude, which
Oh,
is
I see.
going to be the most important recipe for success in the long run.
Great. The biggest mistake candidates make in an interview.
So, the biggest mistakes the candidates mention in the interview is talking about the things which are either not mentioned very clearly in their profiles and the resumes, or they have really mentioned in the resumes but they don't have any idea on those areas which have been mentioned in the profiles.
Okay. One thing on a resume that immediately catches your attention.
So one thing which catches the attention of mine is how the individual has worked in their respective areas and what is the overall impact it has made
Okay.
either at the organization level or for their respective work area whichever had been assigned to them.
Great. Sir, is cultural fit more important than technical brilliance?
Culture fit is absolutely very important, and
Oh,
that's
I
what
see.
every organization is looking at.
Great. What matters to you more today? Learning ability or past experience?
Learning ability,
Wow.
absolutely.
One trait that makes a candidate future ready.
The one trait which a candidate makes a sense of being a future ready is being flexible
Okay.
and more agile in their overall learning mindset.
And my last rapid fire question for you today is one best way for a candidate to stand out in the currently crowded job market.
Okay, the last question, but a very powerful question. So, in order to stand out, uh, one or two things which are very important. First is uh, to be genuine
Oh, I see.
of who the individual is and who the individual uh, is all made up of in
Right.
terms of their skills, in terms of their the knowledge, and what is the kind of the overall behavior which the individual brings on the table.
Right.
This is the most important thing which I feel can make the individual stand out in any kind of an interview which is
Exactly.
the individual is facing for any particular area.
Bang on. So, with this, viewers, we come to the end of this particular episode of Let's Hear It From. I am sure this conversation was packed with clarity, honesty, and real world wisdom, the kind you don't usually find in job descriptions or interview preparation guides. Thank you, Mr. Srivastava sir, once again for sharing your journey, your insights, and for reminding us that careers are built with intent, not shortcuts. And to everyone watching, if this episode has helped you think differently about your career, you know what to do now. Reflect, act, and maybe update that resume with a little more purpose. This was Let's Hear It From. So viewers, bye for now. See you soon. Please take care and see you soon in the next episode of Let's Hear It From. Yes. Thank you.